What's up guys, it's Anthony from Entertainment Industry Training, and today we're going to be making this very simple lighting fixture screen. You can plan your task or lesson with the easy to follow graphical instructions I've included in the description below. It's a great project if you're just starting out on the tools or if you need a simple, low-cost project for your students.
The purpose of the screen is to enhance your lighting display for stage or corporate events by just letting the audience see the effect of the light shining out of your fixture rather than the fixture itself. The screen is simply placed in front of the fixture that you have focus shining up on a curtain or wall and can make a dramatic difference and add that professional touch.
Let's get creating.
This project is flexible for the tools and skills that you have, and also keep in mind that the measurements can easily be altered to suit the different size lighting fixtures. For this project, you're going to need a sheet of wood. I'm using MDF as I have it available, but you can also use ply if that suits you. You'll also need a saw, a router for a rounded edge, a drill with a Phillips bit head, a countersink bit, 4 screws, and a drill bit. Wood glue would also be advisable to use on the joints for extra strength. First up, you'll need to mark out your board. I'm just beginning with the long edge first, and then we'll be measuring the cross cuts as I go, as I'm using a couple of different saws that have different blade widths. Just use your tape measure and then mark out the line with a long straight edge and a pencil. Next it's over to the table saw for me to do the long cut. I'll actually be cutting a couple of these strips as I'm planning on making 3 of those screens. You can use a circular saw for this cut too, if that's what you have available. Next I measure up the cross cuts with a tape measure to the correct distance, and then I use my square to mark out the line. If you don't have a square, just measure on both sides and use your rule. I cut the piece with a Ryobi compound miter saw. You'll notice a bit of dust, and MDF dust is no good to breathe in, so remember your PPE, a dust mask and hearing protection is also good. I then repeat the process for the last 2 cuts. For the next step, I want to pre-drill pilot holes and pre-countersink them, but to make sure it's all lined up with the side panels, I'm first measuring out and marking the width of the board I'm using so that I can pre-drill my holes right in the middle. I can either do this with a tape measure and a straight edge, or I can just line up the side panel first and mark a line using it as a straight edge. I'm now ready to drill my guide holes. I make sure the piece is just off the edge so I don't go through the workbench. Now the reason I'm doing this separately first is because I'm doing this project on my own, so it'll be easier for me later. Once the drill holes are done, it's time to countersink, which will let the screws sit flush for a nicer finish. It's time to assemble your pieces and screw it in place. Because I'm on a flat surface, I'm able to sit the side pieces upright with the second one there just for support. Line up the top or front piece and then screw them together. It's at this point that if you're using glue for extra strength, you would apply it to the ends of the side pieces, one at a time. Also, just make sure that the pieces are completely flush before you screw them in. When I do screw them in, you'll notice the first screw I'm not putting in all the way first. This is so that the wood doesn't grip and fling around before I've had a chance to line up the second screw hole. Just make sure that you go back to the first screw and put it all the way in. Last up for building is using the round edge on the router. If you have a table router, this is also really good to use. Now if you're not comfortable using a router or edger, then your project will still look good and do its job. But this is just another element that you can add and another step that you can have for your students learning or for practice. Now you've successfully made your screen. Only thing to do now is give it a couple of coats of black paint and you're good to go.
As another option, I also made one that instead of having fixed sides, has hinges along the side panels. This will allow the screen to be folded flat for easier storage. Just keep in mind that the hinge joint won't be as strong. Thank you for watching and have fun creating.